Everybody, and yes, Todd Handel, Nick Clayson would tell you to watch this on YouTube, but here you are on Facebook.
Are we on YouTube, Josh?
We are on Facebook and YouTube. It is we are bridging the gap between two very different generations of people.
It's like making a change in your church. It's going to take us a few years, but we'll get there.
But eventually, we're going to stop using the overhead projector that is Facebook. And we will eventually move to a standard definition 4x3 projector.
Tube TV.
It's going to be awesome. Hey, everybody. I am Josh Boldman from DYM and co-leader and sidekick and all of the things. And this right here, pointing the wrong direction, is Nick Clayson. What's going on, Nick? Wait, hold on. Wait, watch this. I have sound effects now. It's very exciting. So
that's fantastic.
I'm just gonna keep going.
I'm just gonna trust how good they are.
Yeah, it was good. It was very solid.
Yeah,
it was an applause.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Love it.
Nick, tell us a little bit about yourself. Why are you a person that we are talking to currently? What you got?
Bro, I don't actually know.
Fair.
It's one of those weird things. Like a couple years ago, a friend of mine, I was like, man, I'm thinking about starting a podcast. And he said, this is the best advice I ever got. Because I was like, what platform should I use and what all this stuff? And he's like, just freaking do it, bro. And so that's what I did. And so like I just started talking into the back of my cell phone camera in my guest bedroom and putting it on the internet. And now people like ask me advice about things. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm any good at any of this stuff. But I started a podcast 2.5 years ago. It's called Hybrid Ministry. Right about that time, at least at the church I was working at, there was a big tug and pull between like in-person ministry and digital ministry. And you know, obviously COVID swung a lot of us, whether we wanted to or not, into like digital ministry and like a digital presence. And we actually felt like we uncovered some really like cool things in that digital presence. But the pressure to kind of go back to like the status quo and what was, I felt very stuck advocating for kind of both. And so hence the name Hybrid. And so, like I said, I just started 2.5 years ago, talking into the back of a cell phone camera, and then you're like, hey, you should want to come talk about social media. And I was like, of course, that's like my life's work now at this point. I do know other things, but doesn't seem like it.
I don't believe that. Here's the deal, because there's nothing worse than somebody saying like, hey, you got to go listen to this podcast, and the first episode says, hey, welcome to the first episode of the podcast, blah, 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 blah. And then the next episode, it starts with, hey guys, sorry I haven't posted in 7 months. That's on me, but I promise I'm going to do it every week. And then you're like, there is no third episode, right? Like that's how most of them go, but not
Bro, do you want to know what the stats are?
Oh, 90, I do actually.
I think it's like 90% don't make it past episode 8.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Or it might not be 90. I might be making the percentage up, but a very high percentage don't make it past their 8th episode.
Wow.
So,
I mean, that's like I will generally make it past the 8th episode, even of a Netflix series that I don't like. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like
Yeah.
I'm gonna watch the rest of it, but
No doubt. No doubt.
okay.
Yeah.
Hey,
It just-
Nick. Okay, so we've got a bunch of questions for you.
Let's
If
go.
you are in the chat, YouTube or Facebook, throw a question in the chat. We'll go to that. If not, I've got some that I've already worked out. But before we get going on that, I do want to tell you this live stream is brought to you by our good friends at Youth Ministry University. Now, here's the deal. Youth Ministry University is a way to ongoing train all of your volunteers. It's absolutely incredible. You give them each their own account. They log in. They do these 101, 201, 301, 401 classes. There's all kinds of stuff. And I will tell you right now, I have the inside scoop that there is some really cool stuff coming to YMU later this year. So you're going to want to get in on it. The way the pricing normally works, it's normally $249 for the first year and then $99 to renew. If you use the code JANLIVE150 before the end of January, you will get your first year for $99, and then it will still be $99 the next year. So you'll save $150 off of that. That is a sweet deal. So either scan the QR code that is no longer on the screen, or go to ymuniversity.com, and when you sign up, just use the code JANLIVE150. One other thing that I'd love to tell you is next Tuesday the 4th of February, we got a pretty special announcement coming up. We're obviously, we're going to be launching the National Day of Volunteer Training Youth, but you may notice above the word day, there's a small little asterisk there. I'm not going to tell you what that's for. You're going to need to be there, and it is going to blow your mind. Big stuff.
That's
happening.
a big promise.
Yeah,
big promise right there.
There is big stuff happening at DYM, especially when it comes to National Day. So yeah, you're not gonna want to miss that. All right.
And listen, I use both those things, Josh. Like I use both of those things, and
so,
I'm
Nick,
not.
You should also come to that.
All right,
you know,
great.
yeah, I think it'll be worth it.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
All right, Nick. I'm gonna start my first question here.
Yes, sir. Let's go.
What is a reel?
Okay. Yeah. So most people know this.
No,
so
we don't want to assume.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Okay. If you know this, apologies, but in case you didn't, in the year of our Lord 2020, this pandemic happened to the world and our country, and everyone was forced to go inside their houses and just live their lives through screens and through devices.
Fair.
And this little app, which is now technically illegal in our country, but has weirdly somehow been saved, used to be formerly known as musical.ly, but then rebranded as TikTok, burst onto the scene. And actually what it did is it ushered in this new era of social media. So prior to 2020 and prior to the rise of a platform such as TikTok, social media was all about your social connections, right? So like if I'm friends with you, I get on and I see all the things that Josh has to offer and post, and I get to see his pictures to his trip to Mexico or whatever. But you're a youth pastor, and so you don't make a lot of money, so you don't go to Mexico that often. So like the actual
that's why you do a missions trip. Like that's the key.
That is the hack, right? And you take a beach day, and that's how you get those in.
One.
Anyway, so those start to dry up, and we need more content, and so this app called TikTok bursts onto the scene, and it's a completely different way of social media. It's what marketers and stuff have described as the discovery era of social. And so discovery meaning like you might be watching a video from a person that you've never followed before, you've never met before, you don't even know who they are, but you're watching it because that video, the algorithm is serving it to you because it thinks you might like it, or it's really popular, and so it's showing it to a lot more people. And so that was TikTok. That was in 2020. A reel is Facebook and Instagram's theft of that concept. YouTube also has one. It's called Shorts on YouTube. Once again, we're slowly making our way over there as a youth ministry community. But so TikTok Facebook Reels, Instagram Reels, and YouTube Shorts are all the same like style of video, right? So it's
Okay.
that short form, vertical based video, and you can scroll endlessly, right? You just go from one video to the next video to the next video.
Yes, you can.
90%, I think they say, are of people that you don't know or haven't followed before.
Oh,
So it's
okay.
this whole concept of like a for you, FYP for short, is what they do on TikTok, the for you sort of algorithm. So
Cool.
I
And
did
so,
give you a very long answer to a pretty
no,
basic
yeah,
question.
I would no. So here, and maybe we'll just move on from this. Maybe this is just me getting this off my chest. I'm not sure, but a reel is different than a story, and neither of those things are like a Vine, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Because
And Instagram is actually a pretty robust platform
yeah,
because it has stories like you mentioned. Those delete and are more behind the scenes, 24 hours they're gone.
Yeah.
Reels, that's the videos kind of got that Vine vibe for those of us millennials that remember that. And then it also has like posts, things that you post on like the feed or like the grid. And like a fourth sort of like, 3B option. Now they sort of have an algorithm around search in Instagram as well.
interesting.
So there's really like a lot of different, angles to what's going on over there on Instagram. But you're
Nice.
right. It's a story and a reel, not the same thing.
All right, I'm just going to jump right into a question that we got from the chat.
Let's do
Todd
it.
Handel is asking, with all the quote controversy around TikTok, do you find it to be a suitable social media platform for ministry? Like, I
Well,
mean, do we bank
yeah.
on this thing still being around in a month? Are we, what's your take?
Great question. Yeah. So you need to know that my wife and I found this out the hard way because the night that it got banned, she's like, well, that's it. So she deleted it off her phone. I did not. You cannot go as a new download. It's not available in the App Store. So like my wife cannot get access to TikTok again, even though I never deleted it. So I still have access to it. So to answer your specific question about TikTok itself, is it a viable, like thing for ministry moving forward? Like you can't even download it if you're choosing now, like, oh, I'm going to jump in on it now. I'm watching this live stream from this guy. You are not going to be able to download it. However, the piece that is viable, the sustainability in all of this, is this archetype of social media, short form, vertical based video. That's not going anywhere. I saw a stat recently that said 90% of the internet's traffic is made up of things that are short form, vertical based videos. So that's TikTok style videos, Instagram Reels, Facebook Reels, and YouTube Shorts. And so
What
that
percentage of that do you think is quality content? What do you think? It's low, right? I mean, it's not super high, right?
Depends, man. It just depends what algorithm you're on, for sure. Because I actually do learn a lot from short form vertical based video. But if you're on a lot, and people use it for all sorts of different things, man. Like if you're on conspiracy theory algorithms, you get that. If you're on brain rot like algorithms, you get that. Like these are just different like genres. But like the fascinating thing about social these days is like everyone has a very different like kind of custom approach to it based on what you're interested in and what you spend time on. And so even if you and I are like talking as friends, I'm like, have you seen that reel? Because it's like a really popular one in my feed. You may have never ever even heard of that guy, or like, and that's the craziest thing that makes it actually, I think, a little bit difficult in today's era of social. So
so going on that, like, so say if say I just started at this church, the student ministry has zero online presence, like not even just a little bit, and I want to jump in, but I don't want to do that thing where it's like we start a new account and then it's never updated or anything like that. Like what would be if I have to put all my chips in one basket, eggs, I think they're eggs, all eggs in one basket, what basket should I pick? Is that I don't know, where should I put the energy that I'm putting into it?
Okay, great question. I got two angles to this answer. So the first thing, I would recommend like 3 steps to my initial approach. Okay. Step number 1 is your website needs to be updated. Youth pastors, update your website. And if you don't have the power to do that, then talk to your communications person and get them to update your website.
Bug them to death. Yeah.
And here's why I would say that that's important, because what we resort to is making social media our like quasi announcement bulletin board, and that's not a great strategy. That's not what social's made for. That's not what social's built for. And so you're not gonna have a lot of success if all you're doing is just like posting your Canva announcements on social, right? You can use it as an avenue to promote things on social, but you want it to ultimately be pushing people to your website. So step one, lock in your website. Step two, start making a commitment around short form vertical based video. And so to answer your question specifically, like what platform should I choose? I would say, I would recommend, honestly, with Generation Alpha, they're sort of settling in on YouTube. I really would really recommend YouTube. You probably also, if you're walking into a brand new place, like you're probably going to inherit an Instagram account. Like whether it's active, whether it's good, whether it has any followers, you're probably going to inherit one. Instagram's been around for like 12 to 15 years now at this point. So like there's probably one with your church youth group's name on it. And so you're going to want to jump in on that. But then from there, I would just, and if you got a TikTok account already active, then you can continue posting there. But if, you can't download the app, then don't worry about it until Congress figures out what they're going to do with it. But I would choose what is going to make the most sense in your context, right? And so every context is a little different. And so if you're like, our kids aren't on Instagram at all, like then no problem. Like go to where they are, right? And so that's the second step. So start committing to Reels. The third step, and really this is like the fullest expression of like my hybrid strategy, like just so people know, like, yes, I have a podcast, but also I'm a real life youth pastor that is also living these things out in my own local context. Like, I would recommend finding a way to get your messages, like your teaching messages, on the internet somehow. And the best place that I think to do that is the full form of it, podcast via YouTube and or anywhere else that may be like an audio version. So YouTube, that means video. And then if you have the video, you can use that as like an ongoing ability to clip those up. And that can help give you the content that you need to start being active on Reels. Now that's really, Josh, that's kind of down the road. You kind of got to get some infrastructure built for that. But that's my long range plan. Reason being, Pew Research did a study a couple of years ago that said 90 to 95% of teenagers are active on YouTube. And so they're going, and why are people on YouTube? Like you and I, we get on YouTube to fix a sink or to hang a light fixture. But a teenager, while they may be doing stuff like that, they may also be getting on there and like typing in like real big existential questions about life and faith. And like, that's a fantastic spot for you and I then to like have a video that helps answer that question by titling it well, giving it a good thumbnail and all those types of things. Because that's where 90% of our teenagers
if 90 to 95% of students are on YouTube, where are the homeschoolers?
They're also on YouTube.
Just kidding. But no, it really, I would think like, going into youth group, you have, a whole mess of kids. I think it would be hard to try and even pick out like, hey, who are the kids who are not on YouTube? Because like even my own kid, right? He's in high school, but he's had a Chromebook since he was like in 5th grade or something like that. So like, and they generally, because it's a Chromebook, he has a Google account, and because he has a Google account, he has YouTube. Like that's just how it works. It's just part of their daily life is being on YouTube, and I mean, and he'll just watch it.
Listen, bro. Anecdotally speaking, so you maybe not want to tell your kid on the over internet. Yeah. He's in high school, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I have kids in elementary school. My kids also watch YouTube. Like we have all kinds of parameters around it because the internet's scary. But like that's if we say you can watch TV, they're like, well, can I watch YouTube? And we have to like no, right now, or maybe yet like. And they're way younger than yours. And so the point is like it's incredibly available and accessible, and it's a desire of like a lot of people as well. So
it's not going anywhere, that's for sure. All right, so talk to me. All right, so say I go in, I'm at a new church, or I've been in my church for a while, and we actually have a fairly robust online social media presence. But it is something that I'm running, and I'm devoting way too much time to. What does
Yep.
it look like to get students involved? Like, what are maybe what's the low hanging fruit that you can be like, hey, yes, you can totally do that, or is
Yeah.
there that kind of thing? Like,
Oh
what
yeah.
does that look like?
Yeah, I mean that's like so in like my 3-step process, right? Step 1, get your website. Step 2, start committing to posting
Hmm.
Reels, Shorts, TikToks, whatever platform you choose. And again, if you're going to use all four, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, like you can post the same style of content in all
Yeah.
four places all at the same time, right? So if you're like, oh, we're only going to do two, that's fine. Then they'll post that same video in those two places. But when you're in that zone right there, begin thinking like, how can I get students involved? So one thing
Hmm.
that we do is every single Wednesday night, just a, in part of our program, like we'll have like the cafe open, we'll have
Yeah.
9 Squared, kids playing basketball, and in our studio, which is a room like we've outfitted in our church, we are filming this thing called the Social Challenge. And so
Hmm.
students know they can go and they can get in front of a camera and they can film content. And so they get to see themselves on social media, which is
Very cool.
fantastic. It does take the content level down a little bit because it's a
Yeah.
middle schooler trying to do the same bit that like,
It's fair. Yeah.
YouTubers might be doing or whatever. But the win is in them getting to be on there, it,
Hmm.
competing with their friends or whatever. So that's step 1. That's in just like filming. And so every single Wednesday night, I walk away with anywhere from 5 to 8 like batch recorded types of content. And we'll
Nice.
just do the same
Yeah.
thing all
Yeah.
night long, right? Like this night we play a game called like 7 questions. And so like if this Wednesday night we're doing like a 7 questions filming, I'm going to walk out of there with 5 to 8 7 questions, and
Hmm.
then I'll edit those later. And when I
Nice.
say
Hmm.
I'll edit those later, I used to do that.
Hmm.
Now I have a team of 3 students who are editors for me,
Sweet.
and I don't even actually touch the editing of those anymore. I have 2
Wow.
kids that are homeschool that come in early on Wednesday before youth group, and I let them use our church computers and our like Adobe logins, and they're editing.
Nice.
And then I have a girl who's like an upperclassman, and she edits using like CapCut, and I just send her the video file. She uses it on CapCut at her house, and then she gives it back to me, and then I can use that as well. And so
Nice.
these are things that students not only have a desire to do, but frankly are pretty good at it.
Yeah.
Like the girl on
Oh, yeah.
CapCut, I have had to give her 0 feedback, and
Nice.
she crushes, she crushes putting them together. And so
Mhm.
for me, I have a team of volunteer leaders and students that do our social content every single Wednesday night. I kind of got the scaffolding built for it, but now I don't ever step foot in the studio when they're doing it. It happens. It gets dumped into like our Google
Is
Drive
it-
storage, and then
Is
someone
it safe to
edits it
say
later.
that like it's probably more work at the beginning, right? When you're trying to get students onboarded. I mean, that's like building a worship team or having a tech
Everything.
team. Like
Yeah.
you got to be super hands on at the beginning, but there is a payoff in the long run where, like you said, you're handing off video that you don't even touch again before it gets posted.
Yeah.
That's very, very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jamin is asking this, and this is a super small question. Sorry,
That's
it
tiny,
says,
Jamin.
what are some of the best apps you two would suggest for making better content? He says, I would love to do a better job of making short form videos for camp and event recaps, especially, but I often spend way more time than I'd expect to actually make the video. Again, I'd love to hear overall what apps you both would suggest, but specifically looking for better, easier ways to make edit reels. What you got?
You got one, Josh?
Oh, I do.
You got any suggestions?
Opus Clip is my favorite. It's opus.pro. What it does, you literally like we will take this video, right? This video that we're doing right now. I'll upload that to Opus Clip. It will, using AI, it'll go through, it'll pick out the things that it thinks are really good or important, or at least are like, it'll catch somebody's attention fairly quick. It will turn it into tall, the tall aspect ratio so we can launch it as a reel. It'll add the captions. Like, it's crazy what all it can do. And every once in a while you'll upload it and it's a real dud. Like, it doesn't do good.
Sure.
But I'd say 90% of the time it's at least something that's usable. But even then you can go through and, like, if it says the wrong word on the caption, you can go through and correct it all. Like, it's pretty sweet. I wish I had an affiliate link. I don't.
Actually, hey, do you have that QR code that I sent you?
Yeah, sure do. Check it out.
All right.
It's right
So
here.
if anyone's watching this, this was for a different presentation, but there's all kinds of different gear recommendations, AI recommendations, Opus clips in there. So if you're watching, feel free to scan that code, or you can just head over onto my YouTube channel later and find it. But this is my free hybrid ministry like strategy guide. And so Opus clip, like when I was saying, we post short messages, like short clips of our messages. Opus clips how we do it. So between students editing my like custom content and then short clips of our messages, like we get 10 pieces of content for the entire week, and it's between those two things. And so at this point, I'm barely editing any of my actual like clips in like student ministry. So Opus Clip's a good one. A new one that I'm just now trying out. It's also like for kind of podcast style videos. It's called captions.ai. And it's a lot better than Opus Clip. Like the actual edit is a lot better. But it's been a little clunkier. So it's I think just kind of getting up and off the ground. As far as like recap videos, CapCut is worth whatever the investment is, with the caveat that Congress doesn't ban it, because it is owned by the same people as TikTok. And so when TikTok gets banned, so then will CapCut.
I mean, I don't know that people realized that. Like, they knew that they were going to wake up and TikTok wasn't going to work, but I saw like outrage over CapCut. Yeah. They were like, what? It's like, well,
and if you're going for, I will tell you, one year I did all of our camp recap videos horizontal on my phone on CapCut in the cabin at night after lights out, and I upload the whole thing.
Oh yeah.
And it did a lot of auto, like, editing for me. And the apps, honestly, like TikTok's my favorite, the actual app, if you still have it. I'll like go around and I'll just like with my cell phone walk around like this and like take videos of the night, and then I'll upload those clips into TikTok, and they have a little button called auto cut, and I click auto cut and it pairs it to music, and it makes a fantastic recap. Sweet. Bro. JMO, was that it? The guy who asked the question, what was his name?
Yeah, it was Jamin.
Jamin. Bro, I do that in like 30 seconds while I'm sitting in my car before I drive away out of the parking lot. I post it on TikTok, and then I also take it and I cross post it to all the other places I want to post it as well. TikTok does the work for me, like the editing, but Instagram has a reel builder. YouTube Shorts has a shorts builder. And so a lot of those native platforms also do a lot of it. I think TikTok might be the best. So if you still have it, I definitely recommend it. And even if you don't have a TikTok account, you can post it with like a private link. And then you can copy that. You can go into like a browser and download, search download TikTok video without watermark. And then it'll spit it out. And you can then go cross post at other places. And it does a pretty good job, and it's really quick.
Yeah, I would say especially when it comes to like camps and stuff, the ability to turn that content around really quickly is probably a bigger win than producing a super, super high quality, thing. Because imagine at the end of the night, every night at camp, you're sending out a video that parents can see, and I mean, social media, a lot of it's like trying to get, more influence, but I mean, the idea of being able to get more parents on your side because they know what's happening, like it's a great way to communicate. I think that's super helpful.
And for the record, that's what I did with CapCut the last several years. It was the video we played in the session, but then we also uploaded it to YouTube. And I mean, we do a weekly YouTube video. Some of those camp videos still are our highest views because parents want to see it and then send it to the grandparents.
Send it to grandma. Yeah. Can I tell you, this may make me sound old, because I am. But I remember like early days, like when we would go to camp, we'd pay someone to video, and we'd pay them a lot, and they would carry around a camcorder that was like on their shoulder, and they would record to tape, and then they would take it home, and like 6 weeks later we'd have a recap video.
Yeah, your camp edit.
Awesome. I'm glad I paid a lot of money for that. That's fun.
All kidding aside, like camp video and camp photos, like they are super important. Like if you believe in camp and you want students to get to it, you got to get good footage of it. And you can do that now with the power of this thing in your pocket. It's the most powerful camera that all of us are carrying around in our pocket. So
some would argue that this one's slightly more powerful, but that's
there's a debate. There's a
Fine.
debate.
No, I got it. I get it. I get it. Yeah. Hey, okay. So actually, okay. So this is really good because camp and those types of videos they feature students a lot. So Todd Riddick just asked this. He said, "Hey, with new AI programs that have been shown to be able to create explicit videos from uploaded images, what limits do you have with putting student images on your social media? Like, how do we keep our kids safe?" Right?
Yeah, great question. We parents know what we're doing, right?
Yep.
And if anytime a parent reaches out and they're like, "Hey, I don't want my kid on social," like immediately I take it down.
Great.
Like, all right, sorry. Whenever we have our sixth graders come in, we have a parent meeting with sixth graders. We let them know, like, "Hey, we're a really hybrid and social like ministry. We do this thing called the social challenge. If you don't want your kids on it, tell them not to come into our studio."
Yeah, that's good.
To be on video, right? Otherwise, if they walk in there, like there's the opportunity or option that they may end up on, on social.
Yeah.
It sounds dangerous, but let me just say, like I work at a fairly conservative church, and despite the fact that it is fairly conservative, like things like YouTube are still widely accepted by most people, and that's a thing that is the most fascinating to me. Is like while YouTube has shorts and TikTok has their TikTok videos, like people are anti TikTok, but they're okay with YouTube, even though it's the cross-posted identical piece of content. And so a lot of it's perception, right? A lot of it's perception. So if you want to go even like above and beyond, you can post like a little waiver thing. In the United States, at least, you get away with things like, hey, some of this stuff may be on camera or on film. If you don't want that, please just let us know and we'll be happy to edit you out, not post any of your stuff. Like, you could go even this far, like in our kids ministry. If a parent lets us know like a non-photo waiver, we'll give the kid, like at our VBS and stuff, we'll give them like a red wristband. And so then therefore our photographers know as they're going back through the edited photos, if they see a red wristband, they just trash that photo and it doesn't ever see the light of day. And so you can certainly, lay out different policies and stuff like that. Ours right now is mostly word of mouth. And, parents are very aware. Like you said, our social platforms aren't hidden away from them. Like we promote it, especially because we put our messages on YouTube. We tell that as a tool to our parents, like, hey, if you want to know what your kid just learned, it's on YouTube, go watch it. And you can use that as a talking point. You can use that as a on the car ride conversation later. And so they're aware of it. And so they're also then, because they're aware of it, going to see it.
That's great. That's so good. We used to, like, I've been at places where we would always include a media release in the camp waiver. Like, it's like, and, not only can you not sue us if your kid breaks an arm, but you're also giving us permission. But it's not like you have to do that to be able to go to camp. It is like a initial here if you're okay with this or if you're not okay with it. And I think, and even, I mean, I've seen places that will put even like a sign on the door or like outside the church. It's like, hey, just a heads up, this, there are cameras in use, like, just.
And you can go so far as to say, to have that sign and then say, if you don't want to be on camera, sit here. We won't video or photograph that section of the auditorium or whatever. And then you just tell your media team, like, those are the people that don't want to be on camera, so don't go take pictures or videos in that area. So
something I would say, especially the idea that there's new AI that can do all kinds of things, right? I do think it is incumbent upon. Wow, that was like I feel like that was a smart word.
That's a politician word.
Yeah, Josh. Right. It's like but it's on you. Like you learn these things. Like so like I remember back when Snapchat came out. We had parents that were like, Snapchat no, but Instagram yes, or Snapchat no, but my kid can be on Kik. That's fine. And it's like, they're all dangerous to some degree. Like, don't pretend like one is worse than the other. Like, there are certain features that are like that might make it more or less, something that you want your kid on. But I do think it is smart for the youth workers to be aware and to constantly be in communication with parents about this type of stuff. A great idea might even be like doing a parent survey at the beginning of the year, end of the year, like just like, hey, what social media do you allow your kids on? Like just and not as a judgment call, but really just to find out. Like, if you find out all your kids have TikTok or or YouTube account that they spend 16 hours a day on. Like, that's good to know, like,
Yeah.
and so yeah, I think any of that kind of thing, the more information you have, you're always going to be better equipped for the conversations with parents after. Because if they're like, I can't believe you did that, it's like, we've been talking about this. Like, this is something we've been doing.
Yep, for sure. And like the media is going to want to scare you and your
Yeah.
parents from all of these things. And so you can choose to be scared of it. And like, then a lot of times there's two approaches to it. One, there's the scared approach, like we're just not going to do it, which doesn't really help disciple your teenagers through technology at all, because like they're going to just be on it and they're going to just try and figure it out without you. And then the second one is like, just not knowing what to do. Like you were saying, like we need to be students of these things. And in my experience, the biggest hurdle to youth pastors doing social media, or at least like some of the stuff that like I'm proposing or laying out, is like just either like lack of desire or lack of knowledge in the area. And so because it's something that's kind of scary, psychologically and mentally, we just kind of choose to shy away from it. Like, I'm going to stay over here with what I know to do. And I'm not sure that we have that luxury that much anymore.
So
we
like,
can,
for example, if two youth pastors were going to do a live stream, the safe route would be to do that on Facebook.
Yeah, it would be.
Well, that's all for today, friends. That's tough.
You're so right, though. You're so right.
Yeah. All right. So you've talked about like creating content, like, and how much content. What is the goal of the content that you want to make? So like, if I want as many people as possible to see this thing, do I have to create a video that starts with "I wish I had known this sooner," and then just do something that's not actually helpful in any way? Like, is there another kind of video, like, or no? Is there a formula to the videos you're trying to make? Like,
yeah, there is a little bit, right? So the more that you're a student of like social media, like the more you can like steal lines like that do tend to get, more views. But my goal in all of this is twofold. And the first one is the most important, is to serve our current church and students well. So to help disciple them, to help also like our social team, like that's an opportunity for students to put their gifts into use. And so they're serving, right? So that's another kind of like side benefit of the social team. It's not just for us to have content to go online, but it's also like an opportunity for students to serve and whatnot. The second is for other people to find it or whatever. And but that's kind of a distant second, and that has morphed over time. Like originally that was maybe my primary goal, like search and findability and all these things. But right now, like I want our church to be where our students are. And if 90% of the data says that they're on YouTube, that's going to bear out even in a church that might be a little more conservative. Like let's say conservatively we're off by 15% of that. So that drops down from like 90 down to like 75% of our students are on YouTube. Like that's still 75%.
Yeah,
if I could find
a
a place to go where 75% of my students are, like back in the 90s, if that was the mall, we would go to the mall. But now the digital mall is in our pockets and their pockets, and we can do it like within the scope of our regular day. That's like a win-win for everybody. And so, so like the type of content, the way we're doing it, like how can you serve your students well, right? So for us, it's fun content and silly content for them to have fun together in the room making it, and then for the editors to have fun putting it together, and then for people hopefully to have fun while they're watching it. And we don't always hit on all three of those, and that's okay, right? Sure. We're just trying to serve our current students well. So silly content paired with spiritual content. And my goal, theoretically, if we're looking at like a funnel, is like they watch our silly content, they watch more and more of us, then the algorithm starts serving them more of our maybe spiritual content. And then maybe from there, they go and actually watch like one of our full long form like teaching videos. And in YouTube, all of our teaching videos have like a next steps form, just like we would have in the room. And so if someone does genuinely want to like take a next step closer to Jesus, and our church is able to serve them, whether they're in our student ministry or not, we like, this is no joke, Josh. 2 weeks ago, we got a submission on one of our videos, like a next steps form that says like, I want to read the Bible better. And then we send them like a little like resource thing from someone who's in Africa. And we use Church Community Builder. So every time someone fills out a form in Church Community Builder, it auto creates a profile. And so one of our other people on our team came to me and they're like, this
Hey.
person says they're from Africa. And I was like, oh,
Yep.
they probably got that off of
Hmm.
the internet, off of
Hmm.
YouTube. And the craziest thing about that is I posted that video over a year and a half ago.
Hmm. Yeah.
And that's the other
Yeah.
benefit that we need to understand about digital is that if I preach a series now and a year from now someone has a question about that
Hmm.
topic, bro, like you are sitting on a gold mine of a
Yeah.
library of content.
Yeah.
And we're doing that with our main church, with our senior pastor. Like we're doing that every single week. Like how much more beneficial would it be if we could also be doing that in student ministry for teenagers who
So
are
good.
native to
Yeah.
online?
Is it okay? So with that back catalog, like, is that the way people are gonna find it? Is that tags? Like, is that like, is it description? Like, what is the best way? So I just taught about a specific topic that I do think is gonna be like, hey, long term, this is something that I'm gonna be able to point people back to.
Yeah.
What's the best way to then make sure that that is
Gets
still
found.
out there? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's tags, it's titles, it's descriptions. I mean, that's all like SEO keyword research stuff. And like, I know we're in youth ministry, and so like those are marketing words.
Yeah.
But if like Brady Shearer, he's up at Pro Church Tools. He uses like this analogy a lot. Like a lot of times our like church teaching series are things like Gravedigger. And it's like we
Yeah.
don't know what that means. And so just start titling the video like what it is. Like what
No,
do
that's
you
good.
answer? Like if you're talking about how to use the Bible, instead of being like inspired, just title your series how to
Yeah.
use the Bible. And then
Yep.
someone's going to get into YouTube because they're not going to search inspired. They're going to search how do I use the Bible? And then those can be found. The second
Nice.
piece to that is like the catalog piece. Like if you want to like drudge something up from the past, then it's on you how you want to promote that with internally, right? So
Yeah.
like a great example to answer your question in our context, if someone wants to get baptized, we have a baptism course that's on YouTube, that's on demand. Anyone at any time can go watch it. And so we don't have to like preach a message on baptism. We've already done it. It's on YouTube. It's made and built for people to get on and watch it and get their questions answered and stuff like that. Because it may not be relevant to every single kid. Some have already been baptized. Some aren't, there yet or whatever. But a lot of times we take that very analog approach. Be like, I need to preach a message on this so that everyone, we push this next step of baptism. But so if you want to like promote that in the room, like get a QR code, they scan it, it takes them to that baptism YouTube playlist, where a kid says, I have a question about how to use the Bible. You say, hey, hang on a second. You pull open your phone, you scroll back to where it is, you copy the link, and then you text it to them, So like there's two answers to your question. Like internally, it's however you choose to promote it,
Sure.
attached to QR code, whatever. Externally, like it's about good titles, good tags, and good thumbnails, the kind of 3 T's of YouTube.
That's good. Hey, all right. So Bradley has a question. He said,
What's up, Bradley?
Hey, how can you make your website better, and what kind of stuff do you put on it? Right. So because you'd said like at first it's really like website, like that's got to be there. What do you put on it? Is it static all the time? Does it change? Like what is that?
Yeah. So if you have access to your website, like first and foremost, like here's the thing. If the faulty assumption is on social media, I need to post this announcement about Nerf wars because they don't know about it. And so we make a boring graphic about Nerf wars and it gets 3 likes. Okay. Instead, you can post like a funny, like meme style, transition style video on your, Instagram, TikTok, whatever, promoting Nerf wars. You don't have to put all the information. It's like a movie trailer, right? Like no one's getting on there on Wicked and they like do this amazing inspirational thing about like this movie Wicked. And then they're like, and on November 27th, that's going to be at 11 in theater 1, 11:30 in theater 2. But that's how we handle most of our social and church announcements.
That's
right?
really good.
And so to answer your question, just make it updated with the relevant information that people are looking for. Because when you get up on stage and you're like, we got Nerf wars next month. And what we then do is we default into all the information. And we're like, this is all the stuff you need to know. And that's what how many posts in this Facebook group on DYM are we like, man, I just got that email that says, what am I supposed to pack again? It's not because they weren't listening. It's because it didn't matter to them then.
Yes.
So put that stuff on your website that they're asking for eventually. And if you have the ability, the administrative rights to log in, just keep it up to date. Like there's a widget. One of my favorite things is there's a widget on our website that just pulls from our Google Calendar.
Smart.
And so
Yeah.
if I update it in Google Calendar, it's updated on the website. And any
Mhm.
information I need, I put it in the event details in the Google Calendar. And anyone at any time can find that information. So our at least our calendar is up to date, and it's dynamic and moving. So I don't have to remember to go back in and be like, oh
Mhm.
yeah, that's right. The costume party already happened last
Yep.
October. I need to go take that graphic off. Instead, it just keeps moving to
Yeah.
the
Well,
next date. And then
and I'd argue,
above
I
them,
mean, same thing. Like with if you can embed a YouTube playlist that you keep adding to, you can embed your Instagram feed, your TikTok, like any of
all
that
of it.
stuff can all be embedded so that as soon as you update it, it's automatically fresh on your site.
Which, Josh, are
Yeah.
you ready for this? It creates that buffer of the
Mhm.
I'm nervous about sending my kids to the internet.
Right.
Fantastic. Send them to our church website.
Yeah.
Which,
Oh, that's
yes,
good.
it pulls the video from YouTube, but that's another layer of
Mm.
protection then for you, youth pastor. And so what I use again, like my dude up in Canada, Brady Shearer, like he has a website builder called Nucleus.
Mhm.
They have a fantastic sermon like video integration,
Cool.
podcast builder, and it does all the like calendar stuff like for you. So our student website is built on that platform, and it's nothing crazy like how we keep our website up to date. We just make sure that when someone has a question about a thing, they can get it on our website.
That's good. That's really good. Nice. I got one from Scott Tinman. He says, "Do you need to
Scott.
have a mini mic to be relevant to students? What would you get? What'd you
Yeah.
take? Are we talking? Are we talking about the microphone that just as an elder millennial, I look at it and I just think that's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. When they're
Dumbest
like
thing,
asking a
yeah.
question, here you go, and it's like, okay, that's cute, but they actually make real microphones. Like you
Yeah.
can use one of those. But so like, what is
Yes.
the deal there? And what do you think?
I think Scott, like you can, you don't have
Yeah.
to. If you want, Josh, throw my QR code back up there. Like I have like
Yeah.
a gear list that I recommend. But they're not. It's not because they're trendy. It's just because it's cheap. So like you can go in there and you
Mhm.
can see how like if you have an iPhone, you can get these Bluetooth microphones. If you have an Android, you can get these Bluetooth microphones or whatever. Like I will say, you want to separate your audio source from your video source if possible. So a microphone will help your audio in some
Yeah.
sorts. We bought like a mic flags, like what they do, like newscaster reports, right? And then we'll just do like those man on the street style videos, and we'll carry like a microphone around, and it plugs directly into our camera, and then we can like interview people and like
Nice.
hold the
Yeah.
microphone up, and, like back and forth, whatever. But last week it didn't work, which means I had to spend $400 on a new one. And so I used we have a different, like a wireless microphone, like a lavalier style microphone. And my resident who's in charge of our social team, he clipped it onto a spatula. And then our students
Yes.
interviewed each other with like a
Yes.
spatula with it clipped onto it. So you can even just have fun and get creative. And
I
be
kind of
stupid.
love that. Okay, so that
It
was
was
that whole
actually
thing.
really funny.
Do you remember? It was either this last Halloween or the Halloween before. There was the guy that did the thing where he's like, he had two bowls. One had candy, and the other one had potatoes. And he just said,
No.
"You can pick, but you can only pick one." It was one of the, and all the kids picked potatoes. Like,
Yeah.
like there's a point where it's like, yes, you can get the most expensive gear, but
Yeah.
if you can use the cheaper gear and somehow
Yeah.
make it like a bit, like make it funny, kids, man, they're all about that. Like, yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Put it on a spatula. That's
This
gold.
it was really
man.
funny. It was he came in clutch with that because it wasn't the
That's so
plan. Like it
good.
didn't have
Yeah.
the mic
Mhm.
flag, and I was like, just clip it onto like a spoon or something. And so I was editing it as like a teal spatula with the microphone, and that was how they did it. But we didn't reference it in any
No,
of the
don't.
videos.
Yeah, don't say
just
anything about it.
was.
Yeah,
Yeah, it just
That's
happened.
so good. That is so good. Oh man, dude. Okay, we're running a little bit tight on time. So tell me
I'll go
one.
fast.
How can people get a hold of you and your content? Like if they're like, I like this Nick guy. I need to check out what he does. Where
Yeah.
can we send him?
Well, you go to the DYM blog,
true.
but also I'm everywhere. Look at here on screen.
Oh,
So
look at that.
YouTube, I have a weekly podcast, like I said, so also a weekly YouTube video. It's just my name at Clayson Nick because someone else already took Nick Clayson, as they do. I am on TikTok if you didn't delete the app like my wife did, or on Instagram at Hybrid Ministry, and then I have a website and it's hybridministry.xyz for two reasons. Number one, XYZ is a really cool suffix, I think.
That is pretty sweet,
But-
actually. Yeah.
But secondly, .com was taken, so That's why it is. But that's just like a that has and again when you're on there, that'll give you like my Spotify podcast, my Apple podcast, all that stuff. It's just like a spot for all
Nice.
my podcast stuff. So yeah,
Very
come
cool.
hang out.
Well,
I'd
all
love
right,
to
so here's the deal,
hang out.
Nick. I'm gonna do a quick plug for another thing. While that's
Okay.
happening, I want you to think. What is the one last thing that you want to make sure that everybody knows? So don't tune out just because I'm talking about like commercial stuff. Like Nick is about to drop some serious knowledge that is very
got you.
important. Is very smart sounding.
All
So
right, I
hey,
got
in the meantime though, if you are ever wondering like, hey, how can I help all the leaders and volunteers at my church be awesome? A great way to do that is Youth Ministry University. It's literally like any topic that you can think of. There is a training for it. It's broken up into these like 6-minute videos. You can track your leaders' progress as they go through it. It's honestly, hands down, it's one of the easiest ways to make sure that everybody's on the same page about stuff. So if you act quick, go to ymuniversity.com or scan the QR code. Use the code JANLIVE150 and you will get $150 off your first year. That means you can train all the volunteers, and it's like an unlimited number of volunteers. You can train them all for $99 for the first year, and it renews each year at $99. Also, on Tuesday, the 4th, we are going to be talking about the National Day of Volunteer Training for Youth Ministry, which begs some questions. One, what does that little asterisk mean at the top? And why do we have to be so... I'm about to get in trouble for what I'm about to say. Why do we have to be so specific to say that this is about youth group? I don't know. You're going to want to be there, find out. Go to the DYM Facebook page. There's already an event there that you can sign up for. But I have already said too much. All right, Nick, tell us, what is your parting wisdom? What everyone here needs to hear from you.
All right, here it is. Okay. A lot of different ways to kind of like skin this cat of digital, so to speak, which is a really weird word picture. But
it really is, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, I digress. Don't get hung up on that. The problem with a lot of our approaches to church is that we're approaching it like it's cable TV, which when I was in college, the only time I could see The Office was Thursday nights, and I had to go to one of the lounges that had cable because it wasn't allowed on my Christian college campus in my dorm room. So I had to cram in there to watch The Office with everyone else on campus because it was appointment television. Like, it was the only time to get it. But the culture has been moving to more of a Netflix or more on demand, which is why I say your website needs to be up to date. And when we start putting more of our message and our content out on the internet, we can actually lean into the way that culture is operating, which is more on demand. And so as churches, we've been saying, hey, come to church. I'm going to share with you the secret to life. And someone says, oh, that's great. I would love to know the secret to life. Can you send it to me? And they say, no, you need to come to our church building at 10:30 on Sunday. And then I'll share with you the secret to life. That's cable TV. And youth pastors, we're still doing that in a lot of ways. And when we move into a more hybrid way, our content can become more on demand. And I'm not saying that we should stop meeting together in person, because I actually think in Hebrews 10:24-25, it's really important that we stay meeting together, encouraging one another. However, content doesn't have to be cable TV. Relationships, maybe, but content, there's a way that we can get hybrid, lean in, and make it more on demand and more accessible and approachable to our students, our parents, our leaders, and really anyone as we move on into the future. So
very cool, man. Super, super helpful. If you are watching this live, man, you just go and follow Nick on all the stuff.
Thanks for hanging out.
Oh yeah, no, we like you people that are watching this now. But if you're not watching it live, great, because this is the internet. We can do that.
It's on demand, baby.
That's literally how it works. So we're gonna keep doing these. We've done this a lot. We've done stuff like we did like a mental health thing. We've done stuff with like finances and salary and stuff like that. Social media. If you think of other topics that you would like to see us interview someone who is smarter than me about, then shoot me a message, put it in the chat here, send me a DM, all of that stuff. But in the meantime, take a day off. You know what?
Maybe not today if you didn't get it approved ahead of time.
Take today off. And if your supervisor says anything, tell them it was my fault. Tell them I said it was okay. And then they're going to be like, who? That's not. That's not. Don't worry about that until it happens.
And one last thing, Josh, drink your milk.
Oh, you gotta drink your milk. That's terrible. You know what? Yeah. All right. Hey, later, friends. We'll see you next time. Yeah. Here. How do I end this thing? Is it here? Yeah. I don't know.